Welcome to 6th grade Autodesk Inventor 3D modeling. We're going to look at how to create the tic-tac-toe board on Inventor. First thing we're always going to do when we want to start a new part is go to the Inventor eye in the upper left and select New. There are many different types of parts we can create. Parts, assemblies, drawings, and presentations. For 6th grade, we're going to be using the standard IPT. So you can either double click on it or click on it once and say create. Now I'm going to change my background to white. It makes things a little easier to see. I encourage you to do the same. At the top, these are what we call the tabs. If we go from 3D Model tab to Sketch, Inspect, the fourth one over is called the Tools tab. In the Tools tab, right in the middle of our screen, you're going to see Application Options. Lots of new tabs pop up for the application options. We're just going to change two settings. So we have to go to the Colors tab, which is the fourth one over. Right now we have a gray background. We're going to change that though. We're going to change our color scheme right here to a presentation. And we're going to change our background. We're going to drop this down and we're going to select one color. And my screen looks just slightly different than yours, but this button down at the bottom is called Apply. If you want that white to stick, you must hit Apply. You notice it goes white, and then you can click on the Close button right here. Once we've done that, we are going to go back to the 3D Model tab so that we can get started. First thing we're going to do in the 3D Model tab, we're going to start a 2D sketch. So we want it to say Start 2D Sketch. If it already says this, you can click on the actual symbol. If it doesn't already say that, however, you need to select Start 2D Sketch, and then you might even have to click on the symbol. What you're going to notice is three different planes pop up. In math class, we talk about the X and Y axis. X going horizontally side to side and Y going vertically up and down. We're adding a third axis in there called the Z axis. This is how we're going to make it 3D. But we have to start our 2D sketch on one of these three planes. So this one is called the XZ plane. Notice XZ. This one is called the YZ. ZY. And this one is called the XY. This is the one we're actually going to be used for most of our parts in Inventor. So let's select the XY plane. Now, we're going to start by drawing this big rectangle for our part. So the big rectangle, we have to figure out how big it is, and there are some dimensions on here that tell us that. So we want to know how far is it from one edge all the way to the other edge. And if you look here, there's one dimension that sticks out, and it has an arrow pointing from one side all the way to the other side, and that is 3.48 inches wide. We need to know how tall it is too, so we're going to find the dimension that goes from the top to the bottom. You're going to see this dimension over here as an arrow that goes from the top line all the way down to the bottom line. That's also 3.48. So we're going to come back to our part, and we're going to be putting in a rectangle. So up here we have the rectangle tool. Typically it starts out as a 2-point rectangle, which is what we're going to use. If it, however, got changed, there's all sorts of other types. You could just go and find the 2-point rectangle, and you're going to notice a little yellow dot pop on the screen. It wants us to first select the first corner. Our first corner is going to start at this point that's right in the middle of our screen. That is called the origin. That is where this is 0, 0 on the XY. So you notice when it snaps to it, 0, 0. Alright, this program is a click and release program. Not a lot of click and drags. Very few instances of that. So we're going to come here till it's at that yellow dot, boop, and click once to place that corner. Then if you move your mouse into the upper right side, we have freedom to decide how big this rectangle should be. Now, I'm going to do something incorrectly. Please don't follow. If I were to just place this, I can't physically tell it how big my rectangle should be. So if I ended up doing that, I would come up and I would hit the undo arrow up here. I would grab the rectangle. I'd start from the origin. But instead of clicking to place that other point, now we're actually going to type in how wide it should be. So you notice that on the top there, it says 0.507, 0.512. It wants us to tell it how wide it should be. So let's on our keyboard type in 3.48. And then we're going to use a key on our keyboard called the Tab key. You're going to find that over on the left-hand side of your computer. It should be about the third button down from the top left corner. It's called Tab. And watch what happens when I hit Tab. It goes over and now it wants us to tell it how tall it should be. Also notice 3.48 is locked in for the width. We can't mess with that. So now we have to tell it how tall it should be, and we've already decided that's also supposed to be 3.48. And now we can hit enter. We've told it how tall, we've told it how wide, but it's off of my screen and I want to be able to see it. So what we're going to do is come to this navigation bar on the side and you're going to see a magnifying glass. If I hit the arrow below it, there's 4 options. The option we want to have checked, which is already checked, is zoom all. So now if I click on the actual magnifying glass, boop, it's going to zoom out and I can see my rectangle. If I hit the escape key, it's going to drop my rectangle tool. The escape key is located all the way in the upper left of your keyboard. ESC. So if you hit ESC, the escape key, you notice it drops my tool and I'm left with a 3.48 by 3.48 square or rectangle. This is all we have to do for our first drawing. So when we're all done with this, the next thing we do is we say we're done with a sketch. Every time you're done with the sketch, you must come up to this green check mark and say that you're finished with the sketch. Now it kind of went off of my screen. It's not a big deal, but I personally do like to see what's happening when I do the next step. So if we come up to here in the upper right, you're going to notice this navigation cube. And if you hover over it, you're going to see a little house appear in the upper left. If I click on that house, it's going to give me my isometric 3D view, which is what I want. Well, let's just see right away, what would it look like if I hit top? It's going to look like a line right now. What would it look like if I hit right? It's going to look like a line. What would it look like if I hit front? Looks like a square because we drew on the front plane, the XY plane. All right. The next tool we're going to use is called Extrude. Extrude's going to allow us to push material through our shape a certain specified distance. So if we come up here to Extrude, we'll click on it. Nice thing, because we only had one shape, Inventor automatically selected it. Right now we're going to take our Extrude menu and drop that down. Right? If for some reason it did not select your rectangle, the first step that you would do is you would click on this profile arrow and you would click inside of your rectangle. Next we have to decide how deep are we actually going to extrude this. So let's take a look. In the directions, we can't see how deep anything is based on this front view. You could see how deep it was on the top view or on the side view, one of those two. And if I look over on the right side view here, from the front of my piece to the back of my piece, you're going to notice a dimension with arrows that point from front to back. It's supposed to be 1.5 inches. So if you type in 1.5, you're going to notice it pushes that material through 1.5 inches. Now we have our tic-tac-toe board. This is basically how the wood's going to come out. So what we want to do is click on the Inventor eye. We're going to come down to Save As, and because this is our first time saving it, we need to select where it should go. Now, most of your screens are going to show it selected on Documents right now. However, Documents is not yours. Some of you are even going to see a folder that says your last name, first name. This is not yours and may even be deleted at a future date. What you must select is very close to the bottom. You're going to see a gray symbol, and next to it you should see your username. Typically it's your first initial, last name, followed by 000 or 001, etc. So if you select on your H drive, we now have a place that we've saved it, but we have to give it a good name. Part number 2 or part number 1, whatever it may be, is not a good name for the future. So we're going to actually change this. We're going to change this from part 2. Instead of part 2, we're going to give it a name that we're going to recognize. So we could call this tic-tac-toe, or we could call it TTT, or we could call it tickety-tackety-toe. Whatever's going to make sense to you. But don't just put in a bunch of garbage. That doesn't make sense. Might be funny at the time, but you're not going to remember what that is. So let's call this TTT. Once you have it in your H drive and you have a good name for it, you can click Save. This is going to be the first step in creating our tic-tac-toe board. I will have another video that's going to start to show us how to put the grooves onto our piece. Another video is going to show us how to put the 9 holes on the front. And then another video will show us how to put the big holes in the end. Check back for my next video series. Have a great rest of your day.